But
That's I hear a slight jab in that at someone.
Subtle bit of hate.
that's not even NHL stuff. That's like one of the junior teams that I follow a little bit has been having some issues with that.
Right, that's
But,
a
like,
jab at the New York Mets. Joseph's actually secretly a baseball fan. He's
How
on
did
for
you know I
baseball
was a Mets
segment.
How did you know I was a Mets? No, yeah.
Biased.
We always find a way to plug in hate on New York teams. Oh.
Yeah, no, you're lucky. I'm just a Chicago fan. Everywhere except hockey. Or everywhere except hockey. Anyways.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the All-Star Trio podcast. As always, I am your host, Nick, joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke,
How's it going?
and our moderator, Tori.
Hey guys.
Today, we have our special hockey expert, Joseph.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey.
We
We're gonna
finally got a
get
guest
some-
on.
Yeah, we're finally going to get some NHL content going for everybody. Tori, kick us off.
All right, guys. We're actually going to start off with our special guest, Joseph, and we're going to talk about hockey. So, first segment, NHL.
I'm going one-handed today.
Good job.
Kick us
Wonderful.
off.
Great. So, NHL segment. I've been prepping for this for like months. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's
But,
been like a month since we asked you to do this.
Yeah, what was it, like November?
It
But-
was
but
like
yeah.
episode 2.
But yeah,
All that
so
matters is that it's happening, right?
it is happening. But yes, so first off, I'm going to start with a quick summary of how Dallas Stars are doing, because that's my team. That's my favorite team. That's what I can talk about.
We applaud
So-
bias. We applaud bias on this podcast.
Applaud bias, heck yeah. But first off, to talk about the recent record. Right now, they're 5th in the Central Division out of 8 teams, and they're 8th in the Western Conference out of 16 teams, and they're 16th in the league out of 32 teams. So they're hovering around that. They're hovering around that halfway mark, very middle of the road team.
So they aren't just around 500. They are 500.
They have a positive record, I'm pretty sure, because
32 and 21.
yeah, like
The current thing. That's what I'm saying.
because the bottom of the league right now is very much like close to like 300 record, stuff like that. Like I know Arizona's doing pretty poorly. Yeah, Montreal's at like 325, Arizona's at like 351, and Seattle's is at like 33, and that's just like a lot of the losses in the league are going to some of the worst teams. But Dallas about halfway mark, no matter how you churn it. But like they've been on the up and up. They won 4 of their last 5 games and 7 out of their last 10.
Okay.
And then they had a very rough start to the season, but that's come around since they've gotten their goalie situation figured out. Which also
have I heard that before?
But like Nick said, that they've got that 32-21-3 record with 67 total points, and that's like way better than they were doing at the beginning. And most of that improvement can be given to the fact that they have figured out their goalie situation. They have, like, the thing that I was originally going to talk about whenever I came on was how they were going to figure out having 4 NHL quality goalies and then like getting that sorted. So in
Right.
short, I'm gonna just do that in retrospect now because it's pretty relevant to their success. Like, first off, at the top you've got Jake Ottinger, who's just incredible. He's only 23, and he's very like he has very high save percentage, very low goals against average, and that's like those are your 2 big stats for goalies. And he's got high amount of wins, and he's also got good defense in front of him. So like it's just sort of like falling into place. And then that's a bit of a surprise because often goalies don't get good until way later. But then moving on from Ottinger, who is the saving grace of the team right now, you get on to Braden Holtby, who is much older, much more seasoned veteran. He's been around the league. He's been in Washington and Vancouver, definitely. But now in the previous offseason, he got sent to Dallas because they were having those goalie troubles and they were trying to figure that out. And he's fine. Like he's averaging about 500 stats wise. And like just wins losses, and that's been pretty good. But he's probably, speaking of the trade deadline, there's a decent chance that even maybe by the time that this podcast comes out, he's not going to be in Dallas anymore because he is basically right at the top of who they want to trade because going on to their third goalie, who's still around, Anton Hudobin, is not the greatest in the world. He's doing all right. Like he's definitely backup quality, and he's paid way too much to be a backup goalie. So nowhere else really wants to take him. He's been on waivers a few times. Like he's been on waivers like twice, and once this past season, but no one took him. So Dallas is basically stuck with him, and they're paying just that massive contract and stuff. But he's not like bad or anything. Like if you get Ottinger playing 3 out of every 5 games and Hudobin playing 2 out of every 5, like you've got a good goalie situation going, and that's that's the really interesting way this is shook out, is that suddenly you have like both people in the net are like starter quality, one of them being a surprise, another one being the person you hired to do that, and then you've got a third guy who can be just like great backup, who's older and has that like capacity.
I mean, to an extent, every team needs a player like that, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is usually for your goalie situation, you do want having 2 starters is good because it means that you're losing a lot less and you got way better defense, but it's really expensive. And that's the big issue that a lot of it that has to do with it a lot. And that's the thing, is Holtby is a good starter quality goalie who's got a reasonable contract, so he might be getting shipped off somewhere in the East. Like I think Toronto has been stated as a possible destination because Mrazek, who's their goalie, is sort of dropping the ball a little bit and not able to really keep up, have that. So like in all likelihood, either it all depends on if Holtby's getting moved somewhere or not. Because if Holtby gets moved, then Hudobin gets back up on the team, stands behind Ottinger, and then suddenly you got a really solid working goal. Because if people know anything about hockey, you know that you build a team from the goal out, and in front of the goal you got your defenseman. And I don't really have anything to say about the defenseman. If you know anything about the Dallas Stars, you know that defense has been their strong suit for a very, very long time, and a lot of that's been sort of interesting and shifted and weird, and there's a lot of complicated like internal team politics stuff that I can't really speak on because it has to do with, there's like one guy who's the star defenseman who is in a massive spat with the coach right now, so he might be getting shipped. And I forget who that is specifically, but it's just a bunch of weirdness there.
Gotta love team conflicts.
To move on from the defense entirely, because this is the part that I get a little bit passionate about, is we get to the scoring situation, because defense can keep you from losing games, but it can't win you games. No matter what, defense can only keep the other team from scoring. But if you're also not scoring, the best that gets you is a tie. So you have to have people who shoot. You have to have people who shoot goals, which is something some teams don't realize. But
that's I hear a slight jab in that at someone.
Subtle bit of hate. Right?
That's not even NHL stuff. That's like one of the junior teams that I follow a little bit has been having some issues with that.
Right, that's a jab at the New York Mets. Joseph's actually secretly a baseball fan. He's on.
How did you know I was a Mets fan? How did you know I was a Mets? No, yeah.
Yes.
He's always find a way to plug in hate on New York teams. Oh.
Yeah, no, you're lucky. I'm just a Chicago fan. Everywhere except hockey. Anyways, but yeah, on the scoring front, the really big thing that's been happening with Dallas is I'm gonna have to censor my notes slightly. Jason effing Robertson.
It's okay. Nick's done the exact same thing in his notes on a previous episode.
No, that's the thing, is that happens at least 3 times.
I've done that on a few episodes.
No, but like, to get to the marvel of Jason Robertson, this kid is incredible. He is amazing. Usually, hockey forwards peak in their mid-20, like from the seasons that from like 25 to 29 are usually where you're getting your peak numbers and you're doing the most work, doing the best goal scoring. This kid's only 22, and he's leading the team in goals. Now, Dallas has never been a team that scores that much. Like they're not that big of a they're not that big of a scoring team. It's mostly been on the defense.
Right.
But Jason Robertson changes that to an extent because not only does he lead the team in goals, he's tied for 10th in the league for goals. And I'm going to get into two of the people who are, or either one or two of the people, because I don't remember where Ovechkin sits on that list. But there's it's really interesting to see such a traditionally defensively competent team suddenly have this young scorer who gels well with everyone else. And I'm going to talk about some of the people he gels with a little bit later too, because that's my next points. But he gels with the rest of the team so well, and it just really works pretty nice. And it's just incredible to have such a good kid.
So I actually have a question. Talking about trading, as someone who doesn't really watch hockey, when you're looking for someone to trade, what are some main points you want to see in a trade?
That's the thing, is no matter what, trading is a gamble. So in short, what you're doing is there's basically two types. There's the standard one, which is we have this player who is really good, but they don't gel with our team. And if we tried to build the team around them, then we'd be a worse team. So we need to ship them somewhere else and get someone who will help our team. That's your category one. That's the more pure idea of it. But then there's also the other type, which is basically you're hedging your bets, where you're basically going, we're paying this guy too much. And we think we have this guy on a contract for $10 million the next 3 years. And we don't think that he's going to play well enough to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and trade him somewhere else, and then get someone else who we think will do better. And then we'll just dump the rest of that contract somewhere else. That's what you're seeing a lot with Arizona, a little bit, because they're trying to salvage some stuff, and then a few other teams. But mostly in trades, it's usually strict cost benefit, and sometimes that's not quantifiable.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like most other sports. There's not the only really special thing in hockey is the specifics of what gets you what, because a good goalie, it will get you maybe good forward too.
Right. Actually, I was about to say you've only gone over two positions on the Dallas team, and their best guys are 22 and 23. How do they come into such young talent?
Ottinger, that's the thing, is I should have gotten these guys' draft numbers first, because I think both Ottinger and Robertson were first rounders. I can probably figure.
Robertson was a second rounder, the 39th pick. What did you say the other guy's name was?
Jake Ottinger. OET.
Give me 1 second. And the other guy was drafted round 1, 26th pick.
Yeah, that's really how they've been getting them, is just smart management of draft picks, and that's really been paying off for them a lot in recent years.
Imagine being able
to get
good players.
Well, you know what? You've got a good chance to.
That's the NHL draft this year is going to be pretty interesting, but that would take more time than I have to get into that. So maybe once it's in the future, once it's immediately in the future.
For another episode soon, Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay
Wonderful.
Podcast,
Yeah. To get back onto my points about the scoring situation, other key pieces to their scoring situation are Rupe Hintz, who's been there for longer than Jason Robertson. For a lot of these players, I just get the stuff out, give you names to recognize. But yeah, Rupe Hintz been on that same line, really been helping the scoring. And then you got the old guard with Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Seguin is sort of an exception to the rule I mentioned earlier of the forwards' best years are just in that 26 to 29 range. Seguin had big surgery this previous season, and it meant he missed a lot of 2019, 2020, and 2020-21 and the beginning of this season. But now that that's done, suddenly he's been playing a lot faster, a lot quicker, and he's been able to really get into that. And then Jamie Benn has been playing all right, but he's not going to hit those heights again. And finally, the chip that has been sort of the key to the Dallas Stars scoring situation is Joe Pavelski. We got him in a trade from San Jose, either a trade or free agent signing, I don't remember. I think it was a trade, but we got him from San Jose in 2019. and he was a real big player, just like Hudobin in that in the 2019 and 2020 Stanley Cup run, where we didn't get the cup, but we got to the finals, which is more than can be said of most of the last 10 years.
Except two.
But then, yeah, he's been leading the team in assists, and if Wayne Gretzky's any indication, that's how you know a good team player is they do really good assists. And he's 21st in the league for total points, which is goals plus assists, and he's like really good. And then just today, he signed a 1-year extension to his contract, which since it's such a short extension, it means he's probably getting toward the end of his career because he's tied for the oldest player on the team. But yeah, like he's been doing some work. And speaking of people at the end of their career speaking of people near the end of their career, to transition away from Dallas real quick, Alex Ovechkin, currently the star player for the Washington Capitals, and in the running for the all-time goals record, which is one of the big three records that Wayne Gretzky holds that are a little bit legendary and notably hard to beat. That's the thing, is right now he has 766 goals, which is third in history, trailing only behind Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky. And he's tied with Jaromir Jagr, who's a player who played a lot more than Ovechkin has, but he's like legendary, and that's like to talk about him would be a whole required
That's a whole nother segment.
that wouldn't be a segment, that would be an episode. But yeah, so before this season, he was trailing Gretzky by 164 goals, meaning he had to score 33 goals a season for the rest of his 5-year contract to like take the record and actively get above him. But this season already, he's scored 36 goals with 23 games remaining in this season alone. And if he keeps his record of 0.63 goals per game for the rest of the season, he's probably going to end up with a total of 50 goals, which means he only has to score on average 28 and a half goals for the next 4 years to take the record. And that's the thing, if you look at this guy's stats, that is totally achievable. If you look at the stats of other players like him, it's totally achievable, and it's a little bit interesting to see how this is really like the large centerpiece storyline that's going to be taking the background, that's going to be like taking over everything a little bit, making it pretty interesting to watch. And talking about who you should watch, what you should be watching for, this last point that I have is just, what are the teams to watch?
So something that I've noticed, the people you were talking about earlier, most of them seem to be like rather young, like within that 20 to 25. Is it like a rare thing for someone like Ovechkin here, who's, as I'm looking at, 36 years old, 4th in goals, 8th in points? Is that like a rare occurrence, or is that something that just happens?
That's the thing, is it depends on what you consider a rare occurrence. Like, it depends on how you define it, because of course there's going to be like pretty big statistical outliers where occasionally you're going to have like these really great players that come up, but Ovechkin himself is a little bit special because I don't know how to say this without it sounding kind of weird, but it's impressive how far he's gone in such a short time, because Wayne Gretzky played until like both, I know Gretzky, Gordie Howe, and Jagr all played until they were in like their early 40s. So the fact that Ovechkin's standing among them when he's still like in his late 30s is pretty impressive.
Yeah, dude, Gretzky was old when he retired.
Gretzky had like that long career.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to note is that the top teams in every division, save the Flames, Calgary, right? Calgary. Yeah. Sorry, weird name. They're all at 40 wins or more.
Yeah.
But in the case of like the Avalanche, they're just barely over 500 in their last 10, whereas the Stars are 7-2-1. And I can relate this to basketball, because the last time a team I cared about went like 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins in their last 10, it vaulted the like 3 places in the rankings, and they're now top 5 in their conference. So in light of that, I want to ask you if you think the Stars are about to do the same thing and make a little bit of a run.
That's the thing that's really interesting to pay attention with hockey is there's like a guy I watch for analysis who does weekly power rankings and stuff, where it just like the difference in how much a team on how well a team is doing from week to week changes so much that like, oh yeah, they've been going on this run for these past these past 10 games. Like, it can be an indicator of good upward momentum, but it's not the be all end all. If a team is stalling, getting around 500, and they have had like those really good 500, like those good really good like weeks in the past, usually to get to my core point, Colorado is doing like middling to not great right now. But that's the reason why they're still on top is because they were doing incredibly at the beginning of the season, and I'm going to get into them in a minute. Like,
yeah, they're more than 10 points ahead of the Blues in the Central Division. So
they're handily winning the Central this time. But yeah, so that transitions wonderfully into my next point, which is who should you root for? Because I picked one team per division. So starting out in the West with the Central Division, which is the one I pay attention to by far the most, because my two favorite teams are there, Dallas, which I've already talked about, and Colorado. I love the Colorado Avalanche. They're by far a favorite to win the Cup this year, and they have been for the past like 3 seasons. They had like this year they're incredible, and they've got a bit of a I kind of want to say a bit of a Death Star team going where they've got a couple incredible scorers, and they got scoring depth too, and then they have really good defense, and then the new addition that takes them like a bit over the top is they have a newer goalie who's been doing real well. But yeah, they're like a favorite to win, and they've been top 3 overall points wise in the past 3 seasons, and they've been top. They're top so far this season, and then last season they were tied for top, and the season before that they were 3rd. But yeah, Colorado is a good pick if you want to see someone who's going to win now, probably going to win the next few seasons, and if you just like watching entertaining hockey, which I do. And then to shift to the other end of the board a little bit, from the Pacific Division, we have the Vancouver Canucks. They're weirdly in playoff contention. They're only a few points behind the Stars, which means that I don't really want them to win because it means the Stars won't be in the playoffs. But no matter what, I'm going to have Colorado, so is it that big of a deal? Yeah, if you want that sort of they started out the season real rough. They've had a real rough 10 years, and they've the fans at the beginning of the season were blaming everything on the coach and the general manager, and the owner finally was just like, yeah, we're going to kick him out, we're going to switch him out and just see how this works. And then all of a sudden the team went on like a 7-game winning streak, and they've just been slowly climbing the rankings ever since.
Oh, that's exactly what you need, a bunch of fans complaining and them actually being right.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible for the culture maybe, but it makes for some entertaining hockey stories. And now to jump to the East to talk about that for a minute, we're going to talk about my third favorite team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, because bias is fully endorsed on this podcast.
Fully endorsed.
But if you're in Canada, root for the Maple Leafs because they're by far the most popular NHL team. For a while, the Kings were giving them a bit of a run for their money, but hockey went out of fashion in LA, and hockey is never going to go out of fashion in Canada. So the Leafs are a good, solid fan base pick. You will find Leafs fans anywhere in Canada and a lot of places in the US. And they're another favorite to win the Cup, but they're having some difficulties now defensively, which they might be looking to fix in before the trade deadline. Like I was mentioning with Holtby in Dallas, Toronto is a place that he might go to. And they've also got Austin Matthews, who leads the league in straight up goal scoring, which, as we talked about with Ovechkin, is always a pretty fun. It's fun to watch someone who scores a lot of goals. Like, assists win games, but goals make entertaining hockey. And that's really the centerpiece, the sort of central chip to them. And then finally, last thing I'm going to touch on, if you're looking for a team to root for in the Metropolitan Division in the East, because Toronto's in the Atlantic Division, if you're looking for someone in the Metropolitan Division to root for, I'd say root for the Washington Capitals. entirely because Alexander Ovechkin. I've already talked at length about Alexander Ovechkin, so I don't feel I need to repeat myself at all here. But yeah,
No, probably not. I think we covered that.
Yeah, it's
There's-
always big to watch someone try to break a record, especially a huge one like that.
it's
We got
gonna,
a lot of scoring records.
yeah, it's incredible. That's the thing that my dad didn't really think that he'd see ever, is someone beating Gretzky's records, any of Gretzky's records.
Dude, between Steph and the shooting record, between Ovechkin and the scoring record, there's so many offensive records seeming to be broken recently.
LeBron also recently broke the all-time like playoff and season scoring record.
Ooh.
It's been a weird season.
It is
Yeah.
weird.
Big season.
And that's the thing.
Sorry. So last thing I want to ask really, really quickly. You don't even have to go into it much. Carolina just beat Colorado 2-0 like a day ago. Now, granted, what you said about team performance varying heavily from week to week, Carolina is like 85 points to Colorado's 87. Like this team seems to be the other contender in the mix.
That's
So
what
do
you
you-
think.
Well, do you think this is any semblance of a big deal? Like, do you think this is a picture of what's to come?
Trying to is decide because yes, we do yes on bias, but do you as
Yeah.
our expert here?
But yeah, Carolina, they've had some difficulty in the playoffs in recent years. Like, they've been putting up really good numbers, but they've had some struggling taken all the way, because they were who I was rooting for the Cup last year. But that's the other thing is, I think I might be able to pull this up here, but the thing that Colorado does that's like to tie this to baseball and the Colorado Rockies,
Oh no, not the Rockies.
Not the Rockies.
the Avalanche do really well at home for whatever reason. I don't think it's as much to do with, like, I don't think it's probably a similar reason to it in baseball, but it's nowhere near to that degree. But they do really well at home because, like, I have that record pulled up now. Like, their home record is 23-3-3. They have won a vast majority of their home games, and their away record is 18-10-2. But yeah, let me see if I can.
Vastly different overall.
Let me see if I can figure out that where Carolina is, because if it's in Colorado, that is a little bit more notable.
Yeah, the Rockies did decent at home in 2021, but they sucked it up on away games like bad.
Yeah,
Well, that's because in Colorado, especially for baseball, it's the elevation, it's the mountains.
Yeah.
That ball, like Trevor Story, every year always has one over 500 and something feet.
that's
ridiculous.
the thing. Is it affects the speed of slap shots in hockey, so you have to goaltend a little bit differently, which is really interesting. And it's not as big of a deal as it is in baseball, but it's like still that little nugget that if you can exploit,
Right,
if you're
it
in.
makes a difference.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, is Colorado is good because they beat the bad teams very well, but like, for instance, they have, like, against Dallas, they have not the greatest record this season. And it's just like, Colorado's very strange. But yeah, in short, I think individual games like that, it can go either way and that sort of thing. But if it comes down to Colorado, Carolina in the playoffs, I bet Colorado's taking that.
Well, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about hockey.
I
That's-
feel
You sticking around for the rest of the show?
Yeah, of course I am.
Heck yeah.
we
Sick.
need to have more Joseph. I'm just gonna say that.
If y'all schedule me for whatever the NHL playoffs are going on, I will talk for as long as you need me to.
We
Keep me-
might
keep me
have to do-
updated on that, and I will definitely include that in the plan.
I will.
So much sports right now.
Hey, that's what we're for. Sports podcast. Hello. All right, so since Joseph's staying, we're gonna move on to the NFL. So next segment. I'm going to apologize in advance before we start the segment. I am sick, so I will not be stating our questions. So I'm leaving this to Nick and Luke to state our questions, ask questions, and Joseph is here to ask any questions he has for us now. So Nick and Luke, take it away.
All right, let's get it started.
I'm going to take this part right here because, as we know, I am usually the one up to date on all the information and everything, spamming everyone in the group chat much to, I think, believe Tori's dismay. I believe she's muted that chat. So.
I'd like to say, no, I have not muted that chat. No.
Moving
I
on.
will say that I didn't, and I've only been in there for a week. Continue.
I didn't mute it. Why are you attacking me?
So keeping up with NFL free agency, the first big thing I want to talk about, Aaron Rodgers, or should I say Karen Rodgers, the biggest diva in the NFL,
Got him.
staying in Green Bay, supposedly for a 4-year, $200 million contract. It is not official. He has not signed it. He has to sign it, I believe, by next Wednesday for it to become official. So
it was a 4-year contract?
Yes, him at, I believe, 38 years old is signing a 4-year contract.
They really want to choke in the championship game for 4 more years?
Why would they give him 4 more years? I could understand maybe 2, but 4?
Well, Aaron Rodgers was supposedly looking for a 5-year, $500 million contract, so him getting 4 for 2 is definitely. Well, you got to remember, Tori, he just won back-to-back MVPs. He's taken his team to the playoffs. They've been a number 1 seed, like a number 1 or number 2 seed in back-to-back seasons. And I mean, Green Bay was doing whatever it took. They were going to match whatever contract. It's just, with Rodgers going on his whole media thing of the last dance, him posting that Jordan and Pippen thing with him and Devontae, them making this whole big thing, all the rumors, all the hatred, the whole thing before the season of him being a Jeopardy host, him not showing up to practice. For him to stay in Green Bay is the most. He lost so many people.
I don't think it was anything but a media hoax. Like,
oh yeah,
like
he wanted to get paid.
It was just attention. That was all it was for. It was to hype him, like get him attention. Because even they say bad publicity is publicity. So why not?
Well, speaking about publicity and Aaron Rodgers, let's talk about the hero of the day that took every media attention from him. Russell Wilson, who got traded to the Denver Broncos for quite a package, might I say. Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, one for this year at the 9th overall and a 2023 pick, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick for Wilson. And then the Seahawks in return sent Wilson and a 2022 4th-round pick. I just want to lead this off by saying the Seahawks trading, they originally had the 10th pick. They traded it in the package for Jamal Adams at the beginning of last season, I believe. For them to take the 9th pick for Wilson just seems like the dumbest thing to come out of this. It's so anticlimactic. But Russ took all the publicity and everything. Everyone was thinking Rodgers is going to announce he's going to Denver. Wrong. Russ is going to Denver. And that division has become so stacked with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and who's the 4th quarterback in that? Derek Carr.
Yeah.
That's 4 of the top 12 quarterbacks in the league. Arguably.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, man.
I mean, the Broncos won, right? I mean.
No. They got a package for him. 2 firsts, 2 seconds. I don't think this was a win. I think this was just both because the Seahawks needed a rebuild. They got a ton of picks. Broncos needed their quarterback to be competitive. They got their guy. I think this was this is probably one of the most balanced trades I've seen in forever.
I don't know. The Chargers to Khalil Mack to Chargers was pretty balanced.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But before we move on, I want to talk about what is Rodgers staying in Green Bay really a good decision? Like, I know he's got a home there. He's proven he can win with them, but with so many contracts up in the air, who knows who they're bringing back?
That's kind of what the thing is for him, and why a lot of people are thinking that his contract is so long, is that they're going to backload it, and then in like 2 seasons, if he's wanting to retire or something happens, they can then restructure the contract and pay most of it, and that way they can put in these contracts. Because I think they're definitely going to lose 1 or 2 guys, but Green Bay has a lot of talent. Like, no matter what you look at that team, the coaching is amazing and the talent's amazing. Now, the only thing I feel bad about, poor Jordan Love, his career is gone. Poor guy's been hated his entire career because they picked him, they traded up to replace Rodgers with him. He's been the center of all the trouble with Rodgers of they should never have drafted Jordan Love. This guy was a huge upside project quarterback who was a late first, second round guy. That's what he was. That's what he's tried to be. And instead,
He just
now
got
he's
stuck behind Aaron Rodgers.
He's going to have to wait another 4 years because Green Bay has openly come out and said that they're not shopping Jordan Love. They don't want to trade him. I feel so bad for the poor guy. He's never going to get his chance.
But yeah, Russell Wilson, right?
Mhm.
This is kind of exactly what Denver needed. Like you said, they got their quarterback. Do you think this makes Denver a contender?
No, because I don't think Denver was much more of a step up from Seattle. Because when you look at Denver's actual stats, their secondary is amazing, which is why their defense is so hype. Because with how the league is, with it being a passing team, the secondary is important. But then you look at like their defensive line; they're like 25th in quarterback pressure. They're bottom like 10 in the league in every single pass rush stat. Their O-line was like 2 or 3 ranks above Seattle's. I think the weapons dropped down because I think that Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are very overrated. I think the running backs are amazing. I think Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are outstanding guys. But then you got to remember that their new head coach is the guy who was the OC for Green Bay, for the Packers. That's going to be an interesting fit because Rodgers does a lot of 3-step to 5-step drop, quick passes, get the ball out, get moving.
Right, and that's dangerous with good running backs.
Yeah, it's good for Rodgers because that's what he does. His arm talent, his accuracy. The thing is, Russell Wilson, his entire career, have been terrible at that kind of thing. Like his ratings and that stuff are always like bottom 10 in the league when it comes to quick passes, get rid of the ball. He's a guy that likes to create, who likes to throw the ball downfield, who likes to let plays set up and move. That's kind of why it was so rough for him in Seattle with that O-line being as bad as it was.
Yeah, exactly. Bad O-line.
How long will that accuracy stay, though? With him being 38 and having a 4-year contract, that means he'll be, 42 when his contract is up. So how well will that accuracy still be? Well, I mean, the more his arm is going to grow tired and old.
Yeah,
like
definitely a big thing when you look at Rodgers and his age. But
well, if Brady was any indication,
it wasn't a problem for Brady. Rodgers he's 38 years old and just came off of back-to-back MVPs. I don't think that Rodgers, like, take away 15-20% of Rodgers and you still have a top 12 quarterback in the league. And he's one of those freak athletes who takes care of his body and has a freak ton of money to work with. So
that's fair. That's definitely.
So we're done bouncing back and forth between Wilson and Rodgers. Let's move on to the next. This trade changed the face of the league. It's the biggest trade in the league. It's probably the most important thing to look at next season.
Carson Wentz to the Commanders. I knew it. I knew exactly where you were going.
Gets to play the Eagles twice next season and then play the Colts later in the season. It's going to be hilarious.
And then he gets to face the Cowboys again. Let's go.
Okay, so here's the thing. When they traded him, right, they traded 2 third-round picks. 2 2022 third-round picks is what Washington gave up for him. His value is greatly dropping, by the way, but I still find funny. They also included a 2023 conditional third-round pick if Wentz plays 70% of his snaps.
Oh my gosh. Not this again.
For Wentz, has always been an injury problem. Washington Stadium is historically terrible at taking your ACL. Oh man, it's going to be interesting. Dude. Next season's going to be so
I told you the Commanders were going to be the worst team in the East. I told you.
Well, the Giants still exist. Let's wait that out.
No, I think Washington's going to be worse than New York this season.
Ooh, that'll be interesting.
Out of all the sentences I've heard on this podcast, that was one I never thought I'd hear Nick say.
What?
Stealing your ACLs.
Oh.
Wow. Well, it is the truth.
That stadium it's horrible. It's so bad.
No, Washington. Oh my gosh, such a bad organization. What are they doing, dude? If they really are they've got to be biding their time. They have to be biding their time. They've
mean,
got to know Wentz isn't that guy.
Oh yeah, they can definitely trade, move around, get another young guy. I still think they should have got. I mean, once Russ was traded to Denver, their main option was gone because that was like the big thing for them. My thinking is that they're either going to draft a quarterback or they might go next. Wait, he might just be a bridge guy to get him to next season where they can draft from a much stronger quarterback class.
He has to be a bridge guy.
Because
I was just there's something more going on that they're building for a bigger plan. That this is just a step. Because there's no way. This has to be some sort of step into their next move or something. This does not feel right.
For me, like whenever you look at Carson Wentz's stats, they look amazing. His stats look great on paper. He had like 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. The thing is, it is such a Kirk Cousins thing. As we know, Kirk Cousins is not that good. Well, okay, I think Kirk Cousins is really good. He's not. Kirk Cousins doesn't take a risk. That's what Cousins does. He is off-brand Aaron Rodgers. But moving back to the off-brand piece of trash that is Carson Wentz, I'm just so happy that we get to play him twice a year. Watching the Eagles fan base get in flames because they didn't get Russell Wilson, he got traded. Carson Wentz is back in the division, so all the people who still love Carson Wentz get to watch Jalen Hurts beat him twice this season.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson is off the table for him.
No. Here's the thing about Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of Eagles fans that went today, as we recorded this, Deshaun Watson's legal cases were dropped. They are officially off. He is officially clean now. There are still Eagles fans posting highlight videos of Deshaun Watson trying to get fans hyped for him, even though Deshaun Watson has come out and said he will not waive his no trade clause for the Eagles.
Get wrecked, Philadelphia.
He has said that he wants to play for a good O-line with good weapons and a good defense. Eagles defense is in flux. We have an outstanding O-line. That's not changing, especially with Jason Kelce coming back. We don't have weapons. We have Devontae Smith, and then it drops off to like Greg Ward and Jalen Reagor. Which, I don't know if
yes, sir, big man Jalen Reagor.
But the Eagles fan base hates him as much as we hate Ben Simmons. So, anyway,
big man Jalen Reagor, let's go.
So Wentz is back in the division. I don't think that we're going to get Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to go to a team like the Steelers or the Buccaneers or where I really think he might go. But moving to the next big trade that happened recently, Khalil Mack was traded to the Chargers for a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 sixth-round pick, which I think is a steal, honestly. Because
that is a pretty good trade.
He's coming off an injury. I think it was an ACL tear as well, as many players tend to do nowadays. I still don't get what the ACL does besides tear. That's all I ever hear about it. But they don't need him to be his pass rushing self. He had like 6 sacks in 7 games last season, which is great. He's also one of the best run stoppers on the edge in the league, which is exactly the Chargers were dead last in run defense last season. They get him, they add in Joey Bosa, he stays healthy, and they draft a good defensive tackle, which this draft is rich in defensive tackles and linebackers. They get a guy in there, they have those two on the line. I think the Chargers absolutely just changed the face of their team because they have an amazing offense, like the second best offense last season behind the Chiefs and ahead of the Cowboys in efficiency. Despite the fact that they led the league in drop passes. Like they were dead last. They were first on the list in drop passes, and they still were the second best offense. Luke, I only point out the Cowboys because the Cowboys were third and the Chiefs were 1.
What was that jab?
That wasn't a jab. That was just saying where they were. I don't always search out to hate on the Cowboys. That's exactly what the Cowboys do to their fans every year. I don't need to help with that.
Okay.
I'm gonna get banned by this podcast. Okay.
Back to Khalil Mack.
Great trade for the Chargers. I think they're really good. The only guy I feel bad for, freaking Russell Wilson cannot get away from elite pass rushes. Like he got out of that division that had Aaron Donald, Nick Bosa, to come to this division and have to deal with Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Chris Jones on the Chiefs. The Raiders have Max Crosby, who just got a huge contract.
Yeah,
He just got like a 4-year contract.
Giant ascension. Yeah.
He led the league in QB pressures this season. Russell Wilson's gonna die.
But this is exactly what the Chargers need to do. They need to keep making moves like this.
They need to build that defense. And then they also gave Mike Williams a big contract, which at the beginning of the season, Mike Williams was unstoppable. He was like for like 2 week span was first in the league in yards. He dropped off a bit because he got injured, or I don't know if it was injury or COVID, but he kind of dropped off and didn't come back quite the same. But he was still a big part of that team. He's a great deep ball threat. He's amazing. I'm really upset that they franchise tagged him because I really wanted him to come to the Eagles. He was one of the big wide receivers the Eagles were looking at. But we'll see. I mean, I'm going to say it now. I think the Chargers are more of a Super Bowl contender than the Broncos are. And I think the Chargers are legitimate Super Bowl contenders right there with the Chiefs. So, but if you've listened to this podcast episode before, you know I am always big on the Chargers, and I love Justin Herbert, and I love that team. Despite I'm not really a fan of the team, but I love Justin Herbert. I love Austin Eckler. Love Joey Bosa. I love that team. They need to give my boy Kenneth Murray, OU alum, more playtime. But, with all these big trades happening, all these big moves, re-signing, I got a question for you. Luke, Joseph, maybe Tori if she feels up to it. What is the next big offseason move that you think is going to happen? Whether it be a signing, whether it be a trade.
Unfortunately.
What are you thinking, Luke?
Unfortunately, it looks like there are two extremes for Amari Cooper. He stays and takes, I think, either the same amount of money or a little bit less, or he gets traded and we try to get a big package out of it.
I've heard that they're just going to straight up cut him. I've heard that there's not going to be trades. I've heard cut him.
I don't think they're going to cut him. I think they are looking to trade. But it sucks because Amari Cooper is so good. He just got so little targets, but no, they're not going to trade him. I mean, they're not going to cut him. Not with how valuable he is to anybody. They're gonna look to trade him if they can't salvage that relationship.
I know a great team that would give him plenty of touches and plenty of catch and receptions.
For what?
I mean, the Eagles would be perfect for him. We need a guy like
for
that.
what?
Beautiful.
The Eagles. Okay, first of all, I agree with.
We have 3 first-round picks. We can share. Dallas can get something. We're nice. We're kind people. We're not petty like the Cowboys who trade up in front of the Eagles to take CeeDee Lamb off the board.
Look, you want to talk about someone who's getting released? Greg Zuerlein's out.
Oh yeah, that's probably for the best.
Only thing I know is Dallas doesn't deserve anything good.
Thank you. Oh my God, Joseph, we need you on this podcast.
Back my statement of a person coming back. I don't think he should be invited back. Joseph, you're banned from the podcast. No, I agree. I agree with Luke. I don't think Amari Coop is getting cut. I think he'll get traded or something, but there's no way he's getting cut. He's too good. I hope he goes before he goes to the Eagles. Sorry, Nick, but
he's an injury-prone player on a huge contract who had probably his worst season of his career. If they can't get him traded, he might have to be cut because the Cowboys can't afford him. They either have to restructure the contract or something. Because y'all are still paying Zeke a crap ton of money. Dak's getting a ton of money. You're going to have to put contracts together soon for guys like CeeDee Lamb, who I think should be your number one guy, which is kind of what I'm thinking because y'all can re-sign Michael Gallup and then bring in CeeDee Lamb as the number one, and you're just fine.
I think that is the plan. I've heard that we are going to re-sign Michael Gallup. I think. Don't quote me on
Didn't y'all
that.
also franchise tag Dalton Schultz, your tight end?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So
Eagles so bad, we should just make a deal now, right now. I mean, I don't want him with the Eagles, but let's make a deal.
Yeah. Eagles fan base is too busy crying over Russell Wilson, crying over Aaron Rodgers, begging Deshaun Watson to come to a team that he's already said he doesn't want to come to. Or, the rest of us, they're just kind of sitting back waiting for Jalen Hurts season with my 2 Jalen Hurts jerseys. I should have worn one of those out of pettiness.
Okay, so I have to. Joseph, you said that Dallas deserves nothing good. Why does Dallas deserve nothing good? Give me one good
Have you met the
reason.
Cowboys? Have you met Cowboys fans?
I
Literally here every episode.
I didn't ask you. I asked our guests. So
You
let's
ever
hear
heard,
guest.
you ever heard of someone called John F. Kennedy?
Okay, we should not have asked our guest. We do not bring politics into a sports podcast. We
It's
are
not
gonna
politics. It
circle-
happened in
Nope.
the 60s.
Nope.
That's
We're
politics.
moving
It's
on.
his-
My two big things that I think are
Roberta.
gonna happen. I have two big things that I think are gonna happen. My thing is Deshaun Watson going to either the Bucks, the Saints, or the Steelers. He says he wants a good O-line, he wants a good defense, and he wants weapons. The Bucks are a great team with a really good O-line, plenty of weapons, and their defense kind of lacking. They need some secondary help, but they can get that. This is a team that, led by Tom Brady, won a Super Bowl last season. And then they were all the way, I think it was the conference finals this season against the Rams. Like, this is a team that can win now and has the ability and the contracts and everything together. They make a small trade with a couple of they don't need first round picks. They're a competitive team. And as everyone knows now in the NFL world, who cares about building a team? It's win now, screw them picks,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Question: of those three, where would you like to see him end up?
Honestly, the Saints. The Saints restructure some contracts. They put them out there. Go against the Bucks. Them or the Bucks, honestly, because that's an easy division. Because quarterbacks are all in question in that division. Tons of people are retiring or leaving. There's no Tom Brady anymore in that division. The Falcons are falling apart. Matt Ryan's getting old. Saints have no quarterback. Who knows if Alvin Kamara is going to play because he's currently in prison because thank you, Vegas. And I think
It's always Vegas. It's always Vegas.
The Panthers are just a bad team.
Luke or Joseph, do you have any input on what Nick said? Just hearing everyone out on this.
Not particularly.
Not for Deshaun Watson, not really. I think out of all of them, Saints probably need him the most.
Them are the Steelers. I think he'd fit in with the Steelers pretty well if the Steelers could build up that O-line.
Yeah, but I don't like the Steelers. I'm a Dallas fan.
Fair enough.
Biased.
And then my final big thing, I think Derek Carr gets traded. A lot of people are saying, see, here's my thinking. The Raiders aren't going to compete in that division. Not now that Russell Wilson's there. The Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers just got Khalil Mack. All those three teams are young, big, star-studded teams. I'm Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a great, loyal guy. He stood there all season while players got arrested, people got taken out. Their head coach was pretty much basically banned from the league for being a sexist racist. Vegas is not a great place to be. And there's been rumors all year he might go to a team like the Browns, and he'd build the Browns up, and they'd be super competitive. But another team that I've heard a lot recently, especially since they recently traded their quarterback, the Colts need a quarterback, one that can push them over the ledge and maybe give them a big thing. A top 10, top 12 quarterback in Derek Carr, find an amazing O-line with a running back like Taylor, a great defense. It's definitely a step up from Carson Wentz. And they recently just got a couple of third-round picks that they can put into trades together. On top of, the Colts didn't make the playoffs, so I think they have a top 15, top 20 pick. So they have plenty of pieces together to send to the Raiders. They have plenty of young guys they can trade to help get them. I think Derek Carr might be a Colt. Him being there makes them a amazing contender in what is a really easy division. So Derek Carr to the Colts would probably be my most likely thing, followed up by Deshaun Watson getting traded to the Bucks would be my main guess right there.
You know what's really is I didn't think about this take at all. No. But now that I really like this take, and it's honestly I'm all for it. Like, never would have thought about it if you hadn't brought it up. But I really like this take.
The same thing about Russell Wilson. When I got the message that Aaron Rodgers was staying with Green Bay, and then I got a message right after saying Denver was moving to Russell Wilson. I was sitting there thinking, that makes so much sense. They could put such a good package together. I was about to write it down, put it on the pod, and then an hour later they managed to get that trade. I was like, oh, wow, thanks. I can't take any claim for this now because you did it. I didn't say anything about it because I was at work. All right. So the final few minutes of this podcast, I just think that this is a very important thing, especially for this podcast, that I kind of want to mention. Baseball's back. The MLB.
Baseball's back.
Woo!
Let's go.
Baseball!
Baseball.
I wanted to get this last little bit in as we approach the end of this podcast. The last about 5-ish minutes. It's back. The season officially started. They signed off on everything yesterday or the day before, I believe. And spring training starts tomorrow because nothing says baseball season like a 3-day free agency period. Thank you.
Just so you guys, once we're not recording on Saturday morning, we're recording on a Friday evening.
Yep.
So
schedule.
Red Sox Yankees opening day, everybody. Let's go.
That's gonna get interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time to really talk about it this podcast. Going into next week, hopefully some more contracts are finished up and we won't have to really go into predictions for free agents, so we can just talk about contracts and everything. So
Freddie Freeman to Boston.
no, Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers.
Bring Kyle Schwarber back.
No, apparently y'all might get Anthony Rizzo though. Okay, no, we're not doing this. We don't have enough time. I just really felt like mentioning that in the series of this podcast because when we started it, it was the playoffs and my Astros went all the way and almost won it all.
But you didn't.
Luke's Red Sox, and it was the pettiest start of this season. Now, what are you doing? My team beat yours in the World Series. Go away.
Lost
Yeah,
to
then
the
you
Braves,
lost to
bud.
Atlanta.
So, fair warning to all of the listeners, be ready for that next week. The baseball bias is coming back.
Let's go.
The war.
So,
Moderator's not gonna have.
as we run out of time, I would just like to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to another episode of the All-Star Trio podcast. As always, you can find us on Spotify and Anchor every single week. We update every Saturday around noon. I try to keep us on a strict schedule. And if for some reason you want to see what we all look like, including the beautiful face of our amazing guest, Joseph, you can go follow our YouTube. Luke updates the videos every Monday, around Monday usually. So you can find the videos, and follow us. Follow us on all our socials. Tell us to spread all the word of us to all your friends, your loved ones, your family members, your brutal, undying enemies. I do not care.
Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell icon.
Like, follow, subscribe on anything you see. Make sure to rate us 5 stars on Spotify because we are definitely 5-star content.
Y'all don't have a Patreon, do you?
No.
No.
We don't ask for money because we are beautiful,
Respectable,
and we do not expect to be paid because we get paid in the love that we share in this community. Unless people want to send us money, in which case we will not say no, but we will set something up. Anyway,
Thank you, Joe, for being here. It means a lot, and we hope to have you back in another episode.
Whenever there's hockey,
yeah.
I'll definitely try.
Look to the skies. If you see hockey, Joseph will be there.
Maybe one day y'all let me rant about the Atlanta Thrashers for a full hour.
You know what? We've been looking to do mini episodes in between full episodes.
keep you updated with that. All right.
I'll happily do deep dives.
You ready for your first end of the podcast? You're about to see this amazing choreographed ending that we have.
Okay.
We will see you next time.
Peace.
Yeah.
Podcast